Okay, welcome to the virtual college exploration for all Pennsylvania students. This is sponsored by the Pennsylvania Association for College Admission Counseling and StriveScan. PACAC is a nonprofit association comprised of more than 1,200 school counselors. I am one of them. College admission counselors, independent education consultants, and other professionals responsible for guiding students through the important transition from high school to post-secondary options. Thank you so much for joining us here today. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of many different sessions happening over the next month, so be sure to check out the full schedule at pacac.org. That's PACAC.org. And this presentation is being recorded and will be available within about a week on that same website, PACAC.org. And I'd now like to turn it over to our presenters.
Great, thank you so much. So we are here as the 3 schools in Pennsylvania that are associated with the National Colleges That Change Lives organization. The Colleges That Change Lives story begins way back in 1996 when a book by the same name was published by a retired New York Times education editor and journalist named Lauren Pope. Mr. Pope sought to change the way people thought about colleges by dispelling popularly held myths and rumors and challenging the conventional wisdom about college choices. Frustrated with the lack of information about colleges available to students and to families, Mr. Pope wrote a book featuring 45 colleges that changed the way readers thought about schools and about the whole college search process. Additionally, Mr. Pope challenged institutions to conduct holistic application review, where the focus was on the whole student and not just a few numbers. You can find a CTCL school in 24 of the 50 states. And there happen to be 3 in Pennsylvania, and we are here to talk to you today. So first up is Katie, who is representing Allegheny College in Meadville, Pennsylvania.
All right, I will jump in from here. Thank you, Molly. So I am Katie. Of course, I am with Allegheny College. If we go back to the map for one quick second, Molly, if that's okay. We are kind of the ones all the way up. Haha. There we are in Meadville, Pennsylvania, which I will acknowledge is not usually so large on maps. Yes, thank you. So this is, of course, one of our main buildings at Allegheny. It does, in fact, look exactly like this outside today. We are in peak fall, and it is absolutely gorgeous. So while I know I'm just showing this to you online right now, I do want you to know that I could have snapped this morning and popped it right in. So with that being said, Allegheny opened in 1815. We are the 32nd oldest college in the country. So as I look at this, we've been doing this for a while. How did we get to be one of the colleges that change lives? That is a question that I would love to work on answering on our next slide, please. So just to touch quickly on our location, we are about 15,000 people in the town of Meadville. With that, we do have really great access to surrounding areas, as you can see. We have 1,800 students this year, just to highlight. You know, we are, of course, doing the virtual for some of our students, so we are just around 1,400 on our campus. The 100% residential is referring to non-pandemic years, similarly, but almost all the time, our housing is both guaranteed and required. We really believe in the living learning community. We have the very nice 11-to-1 student-faculty ratio, and our average class size is 18, and that is for actually our introductory level classes. For our higher level classes, it's actually an average of 12 students. So it's a lot of the individualized attention. And I'm really lucky that I'm going first today because I know that my friends and colleagues are going to be saying similar things. So of course, the next thing that I want to make sure to talk about is what sets Allegheny apart from our other schools. So if we could just jump into our next slide. Perfect. These are the 3 things that I really love to highlight with Allegheny. And honestly, I'm just going to brag for a second. So the major minor combination comes up first. I'm actually going to skip that. We'll come back to it I promise. So I'm going to start in with research, and that is, so as I said, 32nd oldest college, opened in 1815. Our first year of senior projects was actually in the year 1821. So we are past our 200th birthday as a college, and we are just about at our 200th birthday of senior projects. No one is excited about this except for me, but luckily I'm excited about this enough for everybody. So we have this incredible 200-year history of every single Allegheny student being guaranteed at least one research opportunity. 91% of our students will do 2 or more. Big for us. Just to jump forward a little bit from 1821, in 2016, we were actually named the #1 place in the country for undergraduates to do research. So it's 2020, right? I know it's 2020. Why am I still talking about an award from 2016? That is because that is the first year that the award was ever given out. We think it is huge that we won the first year, so I really like to brag about that. It goes across every single discipline, and it is a huge part of our educational experience. Our second thing that I always like to make sure to talk about is going to be sustainability. So, in February of this year, Allegheny actually became the first carbon neutral college in Pennsylvania and the 8th in the United States. So when I say sustainability is big for us, I do very much mean it. On top of that, we do have the #4 environmental science and sustainability academic program. The carbon neutrality was, as you can imagine, a really full campus project that we worked on for over 10 years. So this is a huge effort for all of Allegheny. So I said that we have the guaranteed housing. We do, of course, have the meal plan that goes along with that for all of our students. And I like to mention that with sustainability because one really cool fun fact is that 100% of the food that we serve at Allegheny actually comes from within 100 miles of Allegheny. So it's one of those things where even if it's not your top academic interest, it will be impacting you at Allegheny. And I really think that that is how sustainability should be. So just to kind of circle back to the first thing on the list, as promised, our major minor combination. On our next slide, please, we have a really helpful visual of this. So you can see these colorful circles where we have laid out all of our different academic areas of study. So we have the humanities, natural sciences, social sciences, and interdivisional, rather than laid out alphabetically. The reason why we have the circles is every single Allegheny student is actually required to have both a major and a minor with us. So someone in our marketing department last month, who is way better at math than I am, actually did the math out, and I can now officially say we have 999 possible combinations. So you get to have the really customized education. As I was talking about in the beginning, it's a lot of the individualized attention, a lot of the FaceTime with professors, but you also get to completely customize your own educational experience and study everything that you want to be studying. My favorite example of kind of the major-minor combination is one of our alums, Ben Burt. If that name sounds familiar, it's because he's very famous. He was a physics major and an art minor, so right away, not something that automatically goes together. And what did he do with that after graduating from Allegheny? He actually went on to work at in Hollywood, and he is the one who did all of the sound effects for Star Wars. So physics and art put together, you have sound effects in outer space. So if you've ever stopped and wondered where the lightsaber came from, that is actually Allegheny College. Very proud of that one. Just to give you a huge bragging example of the value of studying multiple things. And just very quickly on our next slide, just to talk a little bit about the student experience outside of the classroom. We do, of course, have about about 125 clubs these days. One of our big projects this summer was getting amphitheaters up and running on our campus so we can make sure that it is fun all year round. Even in pandemic times, we are still really pushing the fun student experience because that's a lot of the joys of a small liberal arts college. Our clubs range from academics. We are a Division III school. We have 21 sports teams. There are clubs focused on interests, on identities, on activism, every single thing. And as you can probably imagine, super easy to start a club if you are interested. We do have Greek life on campus. It's about 25% of our student body. It is present. It is not overwhelming. And then, hey, hopefully you like some of the stuff that I'm saying today. On my very last Allegheny slide, we touched just a tiny bit on our application requirements. One thing I do just want to make sure to hammer in these days, it is completely free to apply to Allegheny, and we are completely test optional. So it is a straightforward, yes, I want to submit my test scores. No, I don't want to. And we don't ask for anything like a graded writing sample, an additional recommendation letter, anything like that. And if you decide not to submit your test scores, totally fine. You are still eligible for every single level of merit aid with it. I do review the applications for students coming from both Central and Eastern Pennsylvania. So if you are watching today and that's where you live, hello. You'll be working with me and I look forward to it. I do want to make sure that I have enough time to pass this on to my fantastic co-presenters. So with that, Molly, if you'd like to go ahead and jump back in.
Great, thank you. So I am here representing Juniata College. We are located in Huntington, Pennsylvania, which is just in the center of the state. Our community is made up of just over 1,500 students, and those students come from 39 countries and 37 states. 33% of our student body represents African American students, Latino students, Asian American students, Native American students, or international students. Our student to faculty ratio is 13:1 with an average class size between 17 and 19 students. We have over 100 clubs and organizations. We do not have Greek life on campus, 21 varsity sports, and 94% of our students will live on campus for all 4 years. Maybe the most unique thing about Juniata is our approach to a flexible, personalized academic experience. Juniata students aren't asked to choose a major, but rather to write, with guidance from not one, but 2 faculty advisors, their own academic plan called a program of emphasis, or as we call it, a POE for short. Students work with their faculty advisors to identify what it is they're passionate about, to explore endless opportunities, including things like studying abroad, internships, undergraduate research, ultimately designing an education that aligns with their future goals and career interests. The POE comes in 3 different forms. The first is a designated POE, and those are all in the circles that you see on the screen. You can also have a multidisciplinary POE where you combine 2 different academic departments from 2 different circles that you see. And then lastly, students have the opportunity to completely individualize their POE, which means that they're able to create something that is completely and uniquely their own. About 1/3 of our students on campus will take us up on this opportunity. Just as important as what you learn inside the classroom is what you learn outside of the classroom. 95% of our students will participate in at least one high-impact practice before they graduate. These are deeply engaging and transformational experiences that allow you to put theory into practice. Starting as early as your first year on campus, students can partner with faculty members to conduct research on our campus. And by the time you're a junior or a senior, you're able to create your own research projects and to carry those out. 80% of our students will do at least one internship before they graduate. And internships are available across the country and around the world and can even be paired with your study abroad experience. Speaking of study abroad, half of all Juniata students will study abroad at least one time. We have 59 programs in 24 countries across 6 continents. The only place you can't go right now is Antarctica. Study abroad programs can range anywhere from a week to a year. 100% of Juniata program of emphasis have at least one study abroad program that meets any requirements that you would need. And your financial aid and scholarships travel with you wherever you're studying. Juniata offers a plethora of community engaged learning courses, which allows students to partner with local organizations and local businesses to put what they're learning in the classroom to work in our community. And finally, students interested in a career in education have access to student teaching opportunities as early as their very first semester on campus. Our goal for all of our graduates, regardless of the career direction they choose, is that they will have the intellectual agility, collaborative instinct, and emotional intelligence needed to be both successful and active contributors in their own communities. In a typical year, 30 to 35% of Juniata students go directly into graduate or professional schools after graduation. In addition, 50 to 60% of graduates indicate that they plan to do so later in the future. 96% of our students graduate in 4 years or less. We actually have a 4-year graduation guarantee. So it's a promise to you and to your family that this is a 4-year experience. 90% of our students are either employed or in graduate school within 6 months of graduation. 85% of pre-medical and health profession students gain admissions into medical or professional schools. We have a 100% acceptance rate into law school, and graduates also have major national and international fellowship success, including 2 to 3 Fulbright scholars per year, Goldwater Fellows, Newman Civic Fellows, and Gilman Scholars. But it's not all stuff happening in the classroom. We are a fun place to be as well. The Juniata community is traditionally non-traditional. Here you'll be a part of a community that dates back to 1876, and many of our yearly traditions are about that old as well. One example is Storming of the Arch, which you'll see in the top left corner and is a really good Google search. It happens every fall when first-year students attempt to charge through the iconic arch on our campus in the oldest residence hall. Waiting to defend the arch is the rugby team. Madness ensues. Lobster Fest is an event that brings over 100 clubs and organizations to the quad to recruit new members, followed by an outdoor community meal where over 750 pounds of lobster is flown in to serve our students. And lastly, and my personal favorite, is Mountain Day, a day set aside in the fall semester. The day is secret until you're woken up at 5 a.m. by air horns and pots and pans banging through the residence halls. Classes are canceled and students, faculty, and staff are bused to the nearby Raystown Lake for an all-day picnic and the much anticipated faculty versus students tug of war game. Another great YouTube search. At Juniata College, we partner with students and families through the application and financial aid process. We review student applications holistically, considering your high school transcript, your application essay, your letters of recommendation, school and community involvement, and test scores should you choose to send them. Juniata has a complicated relationship with standardized tests. We've been test optional since 1998, and we're happy to review your application with or without those scores. Applying test optional does not impact any scholarship opportunities, and similar to Allegheny, you do not need to submit anything in lieu of those test scores. You can apply to Juniata either through the Common App or the Coalition with no fee. And without further ado, I turn it over to Ursinus College.
Well, thank you so much, Molly. It certainly sounds like a lot of fun going on over at Juniata. So guys, first and foremost, let me introduce myself. My name is Douglas Ulrich. I'm one of the Assistant Directors of Admission at Ursinus College. And first, I want to thank each and every one of you guys for joining today. I know that this is a very weird year. My colleagues and friends have been talking about that this is a unique year. So we cannot commend you guys enough for taking the time to learn a little bit more about what the college process looks like and things that you can do to make sure that that transition from high school to college can be as seamless as possible. So we want to, you know, commend you guys on that and just reassure you that if there's ever anything that any one of us can do, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're going to leave our information at the end of the session. But without further ado, let's learn a little bit more about Ursinus College. So we'll kick things off. So Ursinus is located about 45 minutes away from the great city of Philadelphia. I may be biased since I was born there, but we are only 5 minutes away, or just a train ride away, located in Collegeville, Pennsylvania. So we have about 1,500 students that come from 31 different states. That does include DC and Puerto Rico, as well as 22 different countries. So we are pulling from all around the country, which is great. We do sit on 170 acres of campus, and as you can see from that picture, that is kind of what it looks like. There's a lot of new architecture that's there, but there's also a lot of green space to kind of have some clubs and activities showcasing some authentic events that are going on. As we are here for this presentation, we are one of 45 colleges that do change lives, or the CTCL, and we are one of 3 in this presentation right now. As my colleagues have mentioned, with the CTCL, a lot of students are coming there because there is a certain academic standard, or there's a certain education that students are looking for. So with that being said, Ursinus is part of the Phi Beta Kappa Honor Society, the nation's oldest and most revered honor society, which only about 10% of colleges and institutions around the country are able to have that distinction. Knowing that, many students do want to come here for their academic and their educational foundation, which will end up leading our students to either a Watson Fellowship, a Fulbright Scholar, or even a Rhodes Scholar. So a lot of our students are coming here because they want to continue their studies internationally, and most of the time it's going to be generously funded. But how do we create all that? How do we make those things happen? How do we get our students to kind of succeed? Well, it's our academics. So as we're kind of moving on with this slide, Ursinus does offer a lot of academics, and this is certainly not a cookie cutter education. We know that you guys have so many different passions and so many different interests that you want to do everything under the sun. Well, we do encourage that here at Ursinus. We do have a 10-to-1 student to faculty ratio, and this is real. This is what you can come to expect at Ursinus, this kind of conversation, this type of relationship. We want to get to know you guys. We do offer over 60 courses of study. It's about 30 majors and 30 minors, and much like the other CTCL schools, many of our students are going to either double major or attach a minor to their major program of study. It's about 80% of our students. Again, we know that you guys are not one-trick ponies. You have so many different interests that you want to partake in, so we do encourage that. You can see that those are just some of the most popular majors from this past year: biology or business/applied economics, psychology, health and exercise physiology, and then neuroscience and media and communication studies were tied for 5th this year. Now, being that we are a top 100 liberal arts institution, every academic program is held to the same standards. So though these are the most popular, I promise you, each and every program is going to still have that academic rigor that you are looking for. One of the things that we do so exceptionally well here, and we mentioned it a little bit earlier, is the relationship building that you can expect at Ursinus. You are going to be given an academic advisor, right? It's no surprise. Every single school that you look at is going to say you're going to be given an academic advisor. However, we do take a step further here at Ursinus, where your freshman year, it's not so much just being handed your roster and saying, well, here are your classes for the fall semester. We'll see you again in the spring. Let us know if you have any questions. You are required to meet with your academic advisor once a week, every week, throughout the entirety of your fall semester freshman year. So this is when you're going to start to create that path for yourself. All of our students are technically coming in with an academic interest. You guys don't declare until the end of your freshman or beginning of your sophomore year. So this is where you're going to have those questions that were so beautifully put earlier of physics and art, of, okay, well now how do I combine those things together? What can I do with that? And we have so many students who are coming here who have an interest in biology and pre-med, but also were in the drama club or performing arts club in their high school, and they want to do those things. And again, we encourage that here at Ursinus, but we don't just stop by doing that. You guys are required to have hands-on experience. And again, when you're looking at other institutions, they're going to say, well, you have the opportunity to do research, or you have the opportunity to do an internship. But if you don't take advantage of that, you just miss out on all that experience. So we have something that's called the Experiential Learning Project, or the XLP, which is much easier to say. And within that overarching program, there's 6 separate options that students can choose from. It's an internship, study abroad, independent research, civic engagement, a creative project, or student teaching. Now, all of that is on our website, because I promise you it took me about a week to memorize all those, so I don't anticipate that you guys just memorize all of them. But the beauty of that is that most of our students are doing 2 or 3 of those XLP opportunities before they graduate. We don't want you guys coming in here, receiving your diploma and going, okay, well, I guess I'll figure it out now. We want you doing that from as early as your freshman year. So the way that we really start to create that type of knowledge of that foundational education is through our curriculum here called the Ursinus Quest. So the Ursinus Quest is, the way that we describe it is open questions, open minds, right? That true and through liberal arts type of education. But we ask you 4 questions as soon as you walk on campus here at Ursinus. And honestly, you're most likely going to be introduced to them before you even get to campus. But it's, what should matter to me? How should we live together? How can we understand the world? And what will I do? Right? Kind of basic questions. Nothing too crazy there, but it causes our students to critically think and think outside the box. But the reason that we ask that is because this is how the real world works. Not everybody's going to have the same views and same opinions on how to answer these questions. When this is introduced to you, it's going to be during your common intellectual experience courses that you take your freshman year. You're going to be doing required readings, and then you have to report on those readings of how did you view that? What were your thoughts? And it's going to be different from the person sitting next to you. It's going to be different from the person that's sitting next to them. But that's how the real world works once you get into that professional world, because you're all going to have to work together and collaborate to find common solutions to some complex issues. So these questions are going to travel with you, not only through your Ursinus career, but most likely through the rest of your life. So now that we've gotten the academics done and over with, there are so many more things that are going on at Ursinus, because much like you guys are more than just a transcript and more than just a test score, we are more than just a classroom. So of the 1,500 students that are attending Ursinus, 97% of them are living on campus. We do have a 4-year housing guarantee and a 4-year housing requirement, and there's 37 different residency options. And I like to say, as you're graduating academically, you're also graduating a bit with your independence. So we do have our traditional style dorms of doubles and triples. We do have our suite and apartment style complexes. And then across the street from main campus, but still technically campus-owned property, we have 32 Victorian style houses that range between 6 students in the smallest house to 72 in the largest house. So it's kind of like a separate dorm across the street, but most of them are geared to students who have a special interest. Maybe they're foodies, maybe they're video game enthusiasts, maybe they are on a particular athletic team and they just want to live together because they've really gotten to know each other over the last 2 or 3 years. With that being said, with 97% of our students living on campus, you have a lot of different things to do. So there's over 100 clubs and activities here, whether it is Greek life, whether it's Division III athletics, whether it's intramurals, whether it's club sports, whether it is the Nerf gun club that has Nerf gun battles on the weekends. There is truly something for everybody. We have a huge, I'll call it a front lawn of sorts that a lot of students are either doing yoga on, or maybe they're playing ultimate frisbee, but there's so many different things to do. And much like the other institutions here, it only takes you and 8 other students to start a club if there's a club that you want and we don't have it, and then you get that support. So there's so many different ways to get involved here. We are very big into community service. As I mentioned, we are located in Collegeville, Pennsylvania. Ursinus is Collegeville and Collegeville is Ursinus. We like to support the community that supports us. So we do have what's called the U Care Center located in one of our main buildings that is really geared towards community service just in the local community. So maybe it's working with our Wismer on Wheels, which is our version of Meals on Wheels. We're working with the local Habitat for Humanity. We want to make sure that we're giving back. Maybe you want to come here and you want a little bit more of, we'll say, financial freedom. So we do have campus jobs here at Ursinus, whether that is working in athletics, admissions, the cafeteria, wherever it may be. And the beauty of that is that they are going to work with your schedule because academics comes first. Now, we know, again, going back to that open question, open minds, that everybody's coming from a little bit of a different background. And we support that here at Ursinus. So though we do not have a religious affiliation, we know that students are coming from a background of faith here to Ursinus. So we do have spiritual life on campus, and we have a whole department that is dedicated to that and you growing your faith or maybe being introduced to some other religious backgrounds. The Institute for Inclusion and Equity is one of my favorite departments on campus because this is the place where if you want your voice to be heard, it's going to be heard. But we don't just stop there at hearing the voice. We want to make sure that we're turning those voices into actions. So there's so many different ways to get involved here, whether it is clubs and activities, whether it's athletics, whether it's the inclusion and equity, whether it's community service. There's so many different things to do here. So we've talked about what you can do on campus from an educational standpoint. We've talked about what you can do on campus from an activities standpoint. What about where we're at? What about what you can do off campus? So Like I mentioned earlier, we are about 45 minutes away from the city of Philadelphia, which is great. But if you go 15 minutes in any direction and maybe you don't want to take that trek down to Philadelphia, there's so many different things to do. So we have the Providence Town Center, or as you'll get to know it as the PTC, which is a beautiful outdoor center. Maybe you want to go grab a slice of pizza. Maybe you want to go see a movie. Maybe you want to go to Old Navy. Maybe you want to just go shopping at the local grocery store. That's perfectly fine. It's just a beautiful little outdoor center, even if you just want to break away from campus a little bit. The King of Prussia area is an extremely energetic and eclectic area, which is also surrounded by about 2 or 3 other colleges. It's also home to the King of Prussia Mall, which is the 2nd largest retail mall in the country. So if you ever need to do some retail therapy, that is the place to be. Along with being in Philadelphia, while so close to Philadelphia, only a train ride away, we do have something that's called the Philadelphia X. It stands for the Philadelphia Experience. This gives students the opportunity to live down in Philadelphia for the semester, be able to take a co-op in the morning while they're living down there, and then at night, our Ursinus professors will actually come and teach the courses. So you still get that Ursinus foundation. For our nature-minded friends, the Park Yeoman Trail is right behind our campus. So maybe you want to take part in our bike rental program and bike all the way down to Philadelphia. I will never do that, but some of our students do. Or maybe you just want to walk around a bit. That's perfectly fine. And then Phoenixville is an absolutely booming area where a lot of young working professionals and college-age students are living because there's everything that you could possibly need. The best way I can describe it is it's a strip of the city right in our backyard. So we've talked about all these great things. We talked about what you can do on campus. We've talked about what you can do a little bit off campus. We've given you a little bit of a taste of that. But what does that all mean? What does it lead to? Well, glad that you asked. Leads to about 94% of our students working in their career field or doing some sort of service work within 6 months of graduation. And we are getting you guys out for the majority in 4 years. Our 4-year graduation rate is about 70%, which as you can see is significantly above the national average. We mentioned it numerous times, but I'll mention it once more. We are a top 100 nationally liberal arts college in the country. So you can be assured that you are going to get an amazing return on investment. And as we mentioned from the very beginning, this is not a cookie cutter education. We don't just go through the motions here at Ursinus. We want to get you guys where you want to be. So one of the big ways that we do that is by utilizing a database that's called Handshake, which is utilized in our career and postgraduate development office, which will introduce you to over 20,000 jobs, internships, postgrad service opportunities around the country. That way we can get you guys where you want to be. So at this point, I'm sure you're all asking yourselves, Doug, this is great. How do I make this happen? So in order to make this happen, you need to fill out an application. And the application is now open, and you can either do that from the common application or the coalition application. Both of them are free of charge. The first year application and the transfer application are both open now, and you can see the deadlines right there. The 2 to keep an eye out for, as they are coming up very quickly, is early action is November 1st. Early decision, which is binding, is December 1st. What we're looking for on your application is, you're going to hear this time and time again, we take a very holistic approach, but the things that we absolutely need are your transcript, which we're going to give some sort of framework. The average GPA last year was about a 3.45, and we will take a look at your strength of curriculum. So are you taking honors courses, APs, IBs, college prep? We want to kind of see that trajectory that you're taking. We do require a letter of recommendation. Technically, it needs to come from a guidance counselor. However, if your guidance counselor has a huge course load and doesn't have the opportunity to get to know you as much as you wish they did, don't hesitate to use a teacher. That's perfectly fine with us. And then a personal essay. Be authentic, be genuine. Don't write things that you think we want to read. Write things that are open and honest to you. There are a couple of supplemental pieces of information that you can submit. Test scores are completely optional when it comes to the admissions process and also the merit-based scholarship process. Every single student who is admitted to Ursinus is going to receive a scholarship that ranges between $21,000 to $40,000. So you do not need to fill out a separate application for those. You can also, and we always recommend it, do an interview. We can do that virtually, we can do that over the phone, we can do that in person, whatever works best for you. But guys, I want to thank you so much for stopping by to the presentation, learning a little bit more about Ursinus. If you do have any more questions, comments, concerns, or need me to elaborate on anything, my information is on the next 2 slides, I believe. So please never hesitate to reach out. So I'm going to pass this back over to Molly, and I think we're going to close things up and see if there's any questions.
Yeah, we're happy to take any questions if you have them. I think one question that we often get is how we like living and being in smaller communities. So I don't know if Katie and Doug, you want to speak to that?
I would love to speak to that. So Meadville is about 15,000 people, so definitely on the smaller side. One thing I want to highlight is with our location, first off, you can have a car all 4 years, and there is actually free public transportation around, which people don't always expect. The way I talk about Meadville is I'm not an Allegheny graduate. I actually didn't grow up in Pennsylvania, so I am also kind of a transplant to here. And it is, I'm going to be honest, possible to drive through Meadville in like 2 minutes and you can be like, what is here? What are you doing? And that's fair. And I hear you. But what I would add is that when you live here, it is easily the most active small community I have ever seen. We have everything incredible going on our campus, but there's also amazing opportunities within the town. We actually have 3 different performing arts theaters. And so that's just one way that I like to say that like I get involved. I do a lot of stage crew. We don't have to get into it. It's amazing. But, you know, Meadville also has this incredibly active Chamber of Commerce, and they do events every single weekend. And it's the stuff that you would expect, of course, like your farmers markets and your first Fridays and your second Saturdays. But it's also the things you wouldn't expect. One weird fun fact is Meadville is home to Pennsylvania's largest Halloween parade. I did not believe that until I saw it. But we also do things like the 0.5K race. I'm not a runner. 0.5 is not a distance, though. And the trick is you can only win if you're in costume, and you can only win if you've had 3 local snacks. So the idea is really just to get you out and exploring and knowing what's in the community. And it's all just like this weird, quirky, small town fun. And then just personally, one, again, just weird fun fact about me is in the last 10 years, I have never renewed a lease ever in my life. And last week, I bought a house in Meadville. That is where I am sitting. I am just bragging personally at this point. It's not even about the college. It is just to say I love life in Meadville. So big fan of the very active small town life.
The town that Juniata's in is called Huntingdon. We're made up of about 8,000 people, so I think the smallest of the 3. If you like to be outside, if you like hiking, biking, if you like swimming, if you like being on the boat, being in a kayak or a canoe, this is an incredible place for you. If you like eating, this is also an incredible place for you. Within walking distance of our campus, we have a coffee shop that is owned by a Juniata alum. We have a cafe downtown that's owned by the partner of the Juniata field hockey coach. The field hockey coach's brother and his wife just opened a Vietnamese restaurant, so that's our newest. We also have a taco restaurant. Most of our places downtown are locally owned and owned furthermore by people who live and work within the Juniata community. And so it's pretty incredible to know that you're supporting local business, but really local business.
And now I'm hungry, so thank you, Mom. Guys, I think the one thing that I love about Ursinus is definitely the location. Again, as I mentioned, I was born and raised in Philadelphia, and I am certainly Philadelphia through and through. But to be away in a suburb of Philadelphia is amazing, especially for your college education. You know, there's not all of that, we'll call it temptation or stimuli to go into the city every night where the bright lights are a real thing. You know, there's certainly that pull and that draw, but to be close enough to where like, no, we can go if we want, but also have so many different things around you in the Collegeville area. I know I said it, but truthfully and honestly, Collegeville is Ursinus and Ursinus is Collegeville. It is a neighborhood, and it's absolutely a beautiful neighborhood at that. But if you really do go 15 minutes in any direction, you're going to hit that Providence Town Center, which is a beautiful mall. The one place that I didn't mention is Skipback. And it always comes weird coming from, or sounds funny coming from the big burly guy, but it's a cute town. It's a very cute boutique town. It's very pretty. It's a great place to kind of just go on a date or grab a bite to eat. You know, across the street, we also have locally owned restaurants. There's a lot of similarities between some of the obviously smaller institutions, but That's my favorite thing, that if you want the city, it's right there. If you want the nature trails, it's right there. If you just want that neighborhood, small town feel, it's right there. So there's so many different things to do. Not to mention that we just opened up a brand new building that has its own cafe in there. We are serving Starbucks. So I've had plenty of pumpkin spice lattes over the last couple of weeks, but it's a special place, and it's very challenging to articulate that through a monitor. So we do encourage all of us from all of our schools to come visit, because that's when you finally get that instinctual feel of like, is this where I want to be? So you got to come see it for yourself, guys. And apparently there are a lot of great eateries that you can stop at.
I think that's a great way for us to sign off. All three of our institutions are open for visitors. We would love to have you come. We're taking all the safety precautions that are necessary during this time. So we will all ask you to wear masks. We will ask you to fill out health forms and questionnaires. But we are all on campus. All of our students are on campus, and we would love you to come and see us in action, and to see if these are schools that might check some of the boxes on your must-have list. So thank you so much for tuning in. We hope to see you on our campuses soon.
Hang on one second. Sorry. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. When you close this window, there will be a link for a very quick 4-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback you can provide. And again, this is just one of many sessions that are happening over this next month. You can find the full schedule at pacac.org. That's www.pacac.org. And if there are other sessions that you wanted to listen to, all of the recordings will be available at that same website, pacac.org. Thank you very much.